Hi, Sal. How you doing?
I'm good, Ben.
Good
Good
to
to
see you.
see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Good to talk to you. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much for talking to me. How have you been these last few
I've
eventful
been
years?
been very good. I'm feeling well. The heat gets to me a little bit sometimes, and I know we're in store for a week's worth of 90-degree weather coming up here. So it's going to be a little bit a little more indoors than outdoors in the coming week, I think.
Definitely sounds like a good idea. Well, I know it's been a very eventful couple years, but during this time, I think you've used your downtime pretty well by writing and publishing a book called The Twilights Last Gleaming. I have my copy here. So fantastic book. It's a great read. It's very entertaining, very thought-provoking. But for folks who haven't had a chance to get their copy, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about the book?
Sure, be happy to. The story is about how hate and lies can have a destructive impact on a society, and it's told in three pieces. One part is about a vicious leader who takes over a planet using hate, lies, and violence to take over control of an entire planet. The second part is about a brave group of scientists on that planet who are part of the space program that's been in development for years. And they are plotting an escape from the planet to get away from the hate and lies with the hope of moving on to a new planet where they can establish a hate-free society. And the third part of the story is about those same scientists on their spaceship that they've escaped from the planet. But 20 years later, where a younger generation is beginning to take over the leadership of that spaceship, and they're discovering that instances where they believe that hate and lies have creeped their way onto the spaceship. And so the story evolves in all three time settings and hopefully reaches some conclusion in all three settings.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that. And the overall theme of the story that I got was basically how hate and lies can manipulate, destroy a group or a society. Is that a fair assessment, I can say?
Absolutely, that is a fair assessment, and I would say that that I kind of I thought of that theme based on what was going on here in our own country, that hate and lies were really starting to divide us and had the potential to destroy our society.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. So there's a few aspects of the story that I like to get into, and I like to kind of make some comparisons with what we're seeing in our own society today. You just brought that up, and I think that's a really good point. So let's go in order of the sequence of the story itself, right, or the book itself. So the first part of the story is about a tremendous amount of hatred and brutality between two primary groups, right? And as I was reading that part of the book, I couldn't help myself to see similarities with what was in the story with what we're seeing today. Some of the hatred and division and the factionalism that we're seeing in our own country. What was that influence for you as you were writing this? How did that influence you when you were writing this book?
Well, to be quite honest, that didn't have a huge influence on that part of the story until later. When I was first writing that part of the story, it was all about the development of the leader and how the leader came from a society of hate and how that shaped him completely. And so I was thinking primarily about his development, and it wasn't until I went through the editing process several times that I realized I was probably also telling a story about two different factions in a society, and how that can really destroy that society.
Right, right. Well, so thank you for bringing up the character of this leader. I find him a very interesting character in your story. He takes up a lot of the story, especially towards in the beginning, right? And basically, as a result of this divided, brutal world, this character called the leader emerges, and basically he starts out as kind of a master criminal, but then he's able to gain political power through what you wrote as diatribes of half-truths and hateful comments. He becomes a dictator of the planet, and he's able to control everything, and ultimately into some very, very bad consequences. So can you tell us a little bit more about this thought process of when you were writing about this character?
Sure. The leader is probably someone who I thought about the most in terms of developing the character in the story, and the leader is kind of a mixture of three individuals that I've come across in my life of reading about history and reading novels and studying the news. The first is probably Vito Corleone from The Godfather,
Okay.
who escaped from Sicily as a young boy, witnessing violence against his family that kind of shaped him as he went into the new world and became a crime leader in his society. And the thing about Vito Corleone, though, and which is very similar to what happened with the leader, but the difference between Vito Corleone and the leader is that Vito Corleone had some kind of a moral compass that would prevent him from doing certain things. Like he wouldn't hurt civilians, as they called them, or he was very much against the drug trade, which he felt would be really detrimental to society as a whole. Where the leader has absolutely no moral compass. Nothing will stop him. He will get his way through lies, through hate, through violence. And he's a little bit more like Adolf Hitler, who used that philosophy to take over much of Europe during World War II. And basically he had a plan to take over the planet that obviously did not succeed. Thankfully, did not succeed. The third character, there is also a little bit of Donald Trump in there as well, because Trump is doing those kinds of things still today in society. But at the time when I was writing the book, he was president, and he was controlling things through lies primarily, and some hatred of different groups. So some of the things that you see when the leader becomes a political leader are things that you could easily attribute to Donald Trump. So he's a mixture of those three individuals in many ways. And then, quite honestly, I probably didn't start out planning to do that, but I recognized as I was building the character of the leader that was exactly what I was doing.
Well, I think you bring up some really good points here, and especially about how this master criminal, who starts out as a master criminal, is able to gain political power and capture the society based on lies, hate, as well as a tremendous amount of violence and brutality, right? And that as I was reading that worried me a lot, because I think right now as a society, we still haven't yet found a way to hold people accountable who are willing to spread lies and false information for their own personal gain or their own personal profit, right? And Hannah Arendt, in her great book Origins of Totalitarianism, has this great commentary about what lies do to society. Basically, lies to form a society, and the more a society is lied to, what ends up happening is that people, it's not that people start to believe these lies, it's just that they start to believe nothing, and they start to believe whatever they want or whatever is convenient for them or whatever makes them feel better, whether it's the truth or not. And then as a result, bad things can happen. You know, Voltaire has a great quote that sums it up nicely. Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Yeah. And as I was reading that, I was reading about the leader in your book, it was very much the fact that he was able to twist the people around him, twist the society around him, to basically believe whatever he said and commit tremendous amounts of brutality against people that they disagreed with or they didn't like, right?
Yeah, those are really excellent points, Ben. And I sometimes wish I was as knowledgeable in great literature and the great thinkers as you are, and might have realized that that's part of what I was doing as I was writing this book. You know, I think of the book, I often use the term, you know, it's a dystopian study of what might happen, because, you know, all of this action is on a faraway planet. You know, it's not on Earth, it's on a faraway planet where the action is taking place. And, but it is foreboding of what could potentially happen. You know, I recently came across a quote from Margaret Atwood, who wrote Handmaid's Tale. And, you know, she viewed her story as a dystopian story that could never happen. And her quote was, you know, she was shocked and disbelieving that what she wrote about was actually starting to happen here, just 20 or 30 years after she had written that novel. So you never know.
Wow. Wow, that is something to think about there. Yeah. Well, let's go on to the other parts of your novel, because I know that it's kind of broken up into three general sections or three general stories, right? So the second and third part of the story, basically what has happened now is that this leader has taken over the planet and he's destroyed the planet. And so now a group of scientists are planning to leave to start to find a new home, a new planet, start a new society. But on their way, in their journey, they encounter some problems. So can you tell us a little bit more about that part of the story?
Sure. You know, on the journey, there are mysterious deaths that are happening on the spaceship. And this group of young people are convinced that these deaths are connected and are some way connected to the history of the escape from the planet and the potential that the hate that was on the planet has made its way onto the spaceship. They have an extremely difficult time convincing the elders who are leading the mission at this time that something is wrong, and the elders are just treating the deaths as just normal occurrences that would happen over a period of decades. But the young people are persistent, and they keep pursuing what they believe is the truth, and eventually find a way to identify and weed out the folks who are actually descendants of individuals on the planet who were part of the hatred that the leader was spewing. And I won't reveal more than that, but there are some twists that that are a bit interesting, I think, at the end, that lead to a fairly happy ending, I suppose.
Yeah, don't give it away. We definitely want to leave folks a little wanting and wanting to get your book. So, but do you think, as part of that commentary, do you think that it's maybe when you were writing this, maybe you were telling a little bit about human nature, that it's that hate and lies is something that we as humans just can't seem to separate ourselves from. It's very hard for us to separate ourselves from, even though we want to. Like, for example, these scientists here, they wanted to escape the destruction on their home planet, and they wanted to found a new society free from all of this hatred. They wanted to start over, a clean slate. But even as best they can, they can't seem to escape some of the hatred and the lies that they experienced back in their home planet. Is that just how we are as humans?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think that we are, to some degree, controlled by I'm not going to say hatred per se, but biases that we all have, and that some of those biases in some individuals lead to hatred. And that can be very destructive. Separately, I think we're all prone to lies as well. It may start out as what we called as kids the little white lies that you would tell. But once you get more accustomed to telling little white lies, they can become bigger lies, unless you are cognizant of that and work hard to always tell the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard to tell. So yeah, then hate and lies are part of human nature, and it's important that we all do our best to try and control that.
I couldn't agree more. I think the only way forward for a society is to make sure that the people within those societies are willing to face the truth or accept truth, not accept lies, however comforting or helpful those lies may feel to them. But they have to accept what is reality, what is happening in the world, what are the real problems that are going on, and what they can do to address those problems based on facts and truth, right?
Correct.
So,
yeah.
So, your book, it's a great read, but it also sometimes sounds like a little bit of a warning, right? So what do we as a society, as a country, what can we do to make sure we don't go down the path that in some of the darker parts of your book you've illustrated for us?
Well, greater minds than mine are required to figure that one out, Ben. But I think at the simplest level, we have to learn to talk to each other, to try to understand the positions that people who don't agree with us take, and work to find compromises between our positions and their positions. I recognize that is going to be very difficult today, because our positions have become so far apart on many issues that it's hard to find compromise. But hopefully there are enough reasonable people in the middle who can find ways to do that, to reach those kinds of compromises, and kind of dismiss the opinions of the extreme.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you. I think that's a great lesson to walk away with after reading this book. It's a good place to conclude our conversation. But before we do that, where can people find Twilight's Last Gleaming?
Oh, well, you can find Twilight's Last Gleaming almost any bookstore. It was published by a self-publishing company called Book Baby, all one word. And that's a site where you can get it. Of course, you can get it at Amazon and at Barnes and Noble. It's available in the printed version that you held up there, but it's also available for the ebooks of all different formats, and you can find it in other online bookstores as well. So it's pretty widely available.
Fantastic read. I really encourage anyone who hasn't gotten this book yet to grab their copy. It's really entertaining, but also very thought-provoking at the same time. Sal, thank you for writing this book. Are there any more gems in the hopper that you're working on that we should be watching out for?
Well, I've thought about a sequel, and but that's only in the very early stages of what I might do with a sequel. I'm working on a second story. I never thought I would be writing novels, but here I am writing a second one. This one is about a young man who wakes up one day, doesn't wake up, but he's sitting in a bar one day and he realizes he's lost all his memory. He doesn't know where he is, who he is. And the book is the search he goes through to find his identity, and he's telling the story in retrospect, so it's we'll see how it comes out. I'm struggling to stay focused on it and to try to write a little bit every day.
Well, it definitely sounds really interesting. If that one is as thought-provoking and enjoyable to read as Twilight's Last Gleaming, I look forward to reading that one and getting my copy and reading that one as well. Thank you very much, Sal.
Thanks, Ben.
Great talking to you.
I really appreciate it. You take care.
Thank you.